Welcome to Moneyline MMA coverage of UFC 287. This is one Jose and I have been super excited for as we get the UFC second fight between Alex Pereira and Izzy. Obviously, the fourth total professional fight between those two. And then the co-main event, Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. This card is taking place in Miami, Florida. This will be obviously on Saturday with the prelims starting at 5 o'clock. So it'll be the usual 9 p.m. Central Standard Time with the main card. That being said, we're going to bring to you Jose and I's most confident and least confident picks for the 5 fights lined up for UFC 287, starting with my 5 weight, which is going to bring us to the co-main event. Because that's right, I am extremely confident this Saturday in Gilbert Burns taking the win against Jorge Masvidal. Gilbert Burns is currently by far the heaviest favorite on this main event at minus 520. And Masvidal's plus 350. Obviously, this is from FanDuel. You can get odds of different variances across different sports books. But in general, it's widely assumed that Gilbert Burns is a very heavy favorite here. And I agree with it. So, Jose, before I get too far, though, what do you have for a weight on this?
So yeah, for this fight, I'm the complete opposite in this one in terms of I have Jorge Masvidal taking the win, but I'm also kind of similar in terms of he's my one weight because I'm not that confident in him taking this win either. It's cool that this fight's in Miami, so I'm sure that is kind of really pumping him up and really wanting to put on a show for his home crowd because right now he's riding off a 3-fight losing streak, and of course, granted, it's to Kobe Covington and Kamaru Usman. But I think it's really important for Jorge Masvidal to get a win, and I think it's even more important that he do it in front of his home crowd. Gilbert Burns, though, he lives in South Florida as well. He's not far from Miami, and man, that war he had against Khamzat Chimaev, ridiculous. And I expect him to do the same thing against Jorge Masvidal. Come step forward and throw heavy bombs. Jorge has great boxing, so I'm hoping that he uses his reach advantage and high level boxing to get a win. And I think he's probably gonna have to put Gilbert Burns out. It goes to decision. I think Jorge can possibly get that win as well, but I think he needs to put Gilbert Burns out because Gilbert's too dangerous both on the floor and on the feet.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point, man. I can respect that pick with Masvidal at your one weight because he does have that knockout power, and you know that for sure. Gilbert Burns going into the fight, as much as I hope and want him to use his jiu-jitsu, we haven't seen it against some fighters. Maybe he understood and respected Khamzat's jiu-jitsu and just stood it out with him. So we haven't really seen, but then he'll go and submit Neil Magny in the first round. So I would love to see that be a tool that Gilbert Burns uses. But if Masvidal is able to stuff takedowns and keep his distance, he definitely has the power advantage. And at that point, Gilbert Burns is just going to have to kind of tough it out like he did against Khamzat and hope to get the decision win, which at that point you could definitely say is a toss-up. And Jorge Masvidal's been there and done that with some of the most bad guys in the UFC. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it again with Gilbert Burns. But that being said, in any case, I still think it's more likely that Gilbert Burns is able to utilize his jiu-jitsu or utilize something along those lines to be able to get Masvidal on the ground, choke him out. I understand that Masvidal isn't a guy that's been choked out very much, but he hasn't fought guys that really grapple a whole lot. Colby Covington took him down 6 times, didn't get him, completely choked out, but he got the decision win against Jorge. So, guys have shown the ability to be able to do what they want as far as taking Masvidal down if they try hard enough. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what Gilbert Burns' ultimate game plan is. I don't have his phone number, so I don't know, but I'm banking with this 5 weight that he's going to, do his stand-up thing and not get knocked out, right? And get a takedown, get on his back, do something like that to get the submission win, I think.
Yeah. And again, I agree with you. That's why again, Jorge is my number one. It's gonna be a really tough match, and I can see why Gilbert is the favorite in this one. And that being said, yeah, Jorge he's a big underdog, so he's going to be my dog of the week for sure. Again, just to reiterate, he is a plus 350 underdog, so I definitely see some value in there because he does have that knockout power. And Again, I'm hoping he uses his boxing and reach advantage, and tries not to, out wrestle or try to outdo Gilbert on the floor. But that being said, as well, yeah, that summarizes that. You have Gilbert Burns as your 5-weight, and I have Jorge Masvidal as my 1-weight. And that being said, for my 5-weight, I have the young. This one's between Raul Rosas Jr. and Christian Rodriguez. And for this one, I have Raul Rosas Jr. Taking the win. And before I move forward with this, what weight do you have this fight at, Nick?
Oh man, I have this at my 4-weight. We're going to be agreeing on this one for sure. I like the young kid. I mean, it's crazy that he's 18 years old. There's going to be his second fight in the UFC, and I'm still confident that he's going to win. But he's just been dominating, and at this point, it's hard to say that he has no reason to continue his dominance.
I totally agree with you, Nick. I mean, again, it's no question how talented he is for his age. That being said, I'm kind of worried though, how this is going to be in the long run. Like, I hope he doesn't get clipped too early in his career. We saw Sage Northcutt look phenomenal back in the day when he was 18 and made his UFC debut, but he's no longer in the UFC. And I hope, this this talent doesn't go to waste, because I mean, Raul Rosas Jr., his face does look pretty beaten up as well. Not to hate on him or anything like that. I want him to I want him to get the win, but I'm just hoping that he doesn't he doesn't get clipped too soon, because Christian Rodriguez, he's 25 though too, so he's a young stud. He knows there's a lot of hype behind Raul Rosas Jr., so you best believe that Christian Rodriguez is gonna try to make a statement on Saturday night. But Raul Rosas Jr. is just overall a phenomenal wrestler, and he throws over 4 takedowns on average per 15 minutes. And that being said, his striking, he's pretty technical, but he doesn't throw the fastest strike. But he lands, and he seems to find the chin as a target. So that being said, I mean, he out of his 7 wins, only one of them has come to decision. So he is the finisher. I expect to see Raul Rosas Jr. taking this win. He is the betting favorite at -245, while Christian Rodriguez is the betting underdog at +186. For this one, like again, I have him at 5 and you have him at 4. I don't think it's wrong to go with him on this one.
Yeah, man, and I like Christian Rodriguez as someone who came from Milwaukee. He trains at Rufus Sport, and obviously familiar with the Pettis brothers and stuff. So, man, it's a guy that I hate to be betting against, and you make some valid points, right? Raul, if he gets knocked out, gets hit, he does kind of have a beat up look. He has a previous career in the Ultimate Warrior Challenge in Mexico. I don't know quite how hard the competition is there, but he has had some previous professional experience before the UFC. So who knows how much damage he took in some of those fights, even though he won them. He won a few of them in round 1, it looks like, but you still don't know without seeing how much damage the guy takes. I just personally don't think Christian Rodriguez is near going to be the guy that does that knockout damage. I think it's going to take a couple of more fights for Rosas. The UFC is going to kind of feed him a few more low-end guys. And then once he makes that step up into like the top 20, top 15 maybe, that's when we'll find a guy that I think will kind of smack Rosas back down, or we'll kind of see, maybe by then Rosas will have enough experience and enough of a chin to take that. We'll see. But as is right now, I don't think Christian Rodriguez, although he is a good prospect too in his own right, he's also pretty young. I mean, these are 2 really young fighters. Even if Christian Rodriguez fighting against pretty much anyone else on this card, we'd be saying Christian Rodriguez is the young kid, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's pretty insane. The fact that this kid, that Raul Rosas is 18 years old in his second UFC fight. So good for him in that case. And I'm going to continue to ride on it, honestly. I think he's just going to continue to take guys down as he pleases. Christian Rodriguez has been taken down, what is that? I think 10 times in his 3 UFC fights. So it's been consistent for him. And I don't know if he's going to be able to turn that around at one fight camp.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Nick. I think, that being said, I think it's safe to say that Raul is, the best bet to go for this one. And I guess that being said, moving forward now, I guess I can jump onto my 4-weight. And for this one, this is another exciting fight. I think this entire card overall is just extremely stacked. This next welterweight fight between that we're going to talk about is between Kevin Holland and Santiago Ponzinibbio. Right now, Kevin Holland is the betting favorite at minus 295, while Santiago Ponzinibbio is the betting underdog at plus 220. Right off the bat, I have Kevin Holland. Yeah, he's my 4-weight. I have him taking the win. I'm going with the betting favorite on this one. What weight do you have this fight at, Nick?
I currently have this one as my 1-weight for Kevin Holland. So I do currently agree in the favorite, but man, for the reason of giving the crowd and just putting these picks down for weights, man, is I agree kind of with you on your pick with 1-weight on Masvidal, and just that it's definitely my least confident. Personally, I think Kevin Holland has a couple of things that give me some concern. I think Ponzinibbio is a really good fighter. So that's the one I'm most likely to be taking the underdog, because otherwise, so far, I've got all favorites.
Yeah, without doubt. I think this one, I think it's safe to state, I think this is going to be mostly a fight on the feet. I think Kevin Holland, he has that power to put out Santiago. They both have the power, realistically. The last time Santiago put someone out was, I believe, against Neil Magny. That was Neil Magny back in 2018. Obviously the most recent Alex Morono too via TKO. But before that, Alex Morono, that was a last minute replacement fight, and he was giving it to Santiago Ponzinibbio. It was a really good fight. And Kevin Holland right now is coming off 2 back-to-back losses, and I think Kevin Holland, the experience he has compared to Santiago Ponzinibbio, I don't think it really compares. I mean, the level of competition I think Kevin Holland has gone against is quite a bit of a resume. I mean, no shame in losing to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Khamzat Chimaev, and he's racked up some wins over Tim Means and Alex Oliveira, Jacare Souza, and of course losing to Derek Brunson and Marvin Vittori. He goes against really tough people, and he wins the ones that he's supposed to. I think this one is one that Kevin Holland definitely has in the bag. It's going to be, I think, a high volume striking match on the feet. Kevin Holland, I can see him putting out Santiago, either some type of ground and pound or something flashy. If it comes to the decision, it can be a split decision as well. Again, it's going to be a tough, a big, tough, almost boxing match, not even kickboxing, but more of a boxing match, the way I look at it, Nick.
And honestly, that's really how Kevin Holland should play it, because he has the size and reach advantage. I mean, that reach advantage is ridiculous, man. And that's ultimately what led me to taking him as my 1-weight, because, in all reality, with the size and frame that big in this division, it's something you can utilize, and it's just deadly, man. 8-inch reach advantage is just insane. And I still think Kevin Holland has the speed advantage too. I'd argue he's a little faster than Ponzinibbio. And in a lot of cases, power is great and power is wonderful, it's flashy, but sometimes speed is better than power. If someone's trying to power swing and you give them a little 1-2 and knock them off, their swing's going to miss. So it all depends how you play it, and if you can execute the plan that you have, because you can have a great plan too and not execute it on it. So regardless, I do agree with you on Kevin Holland, but I'm just less confident because I think also just the oddness of Kevin Holland, doing this whole social media thing where he's like, I'm retiring from the UFC, I'm done with MMA. And then 3 months later, he's like, eyes emoji, making a deal with Dana White. It was just weird. I don't know, little temper tantrums like that throw me off. If someone's mental is all there, is Kevin Holland really doing it for his love to fight and want to win, or is he just getting a nice paycheck from Dana White? Which honestly would kind of surprise me, because Dana's the kind of guy to say just leave then and not pay a guy. But so who knows what happened behind closed doors there? Maybe Kevin Holland just was upset that he lost, and because I think it was after the Chimaev fight. But regardless, man, I'll still put my 1-weight on him. I like Kevin Holland a lot, and I will be cheering for him to win this fight.
Okay, yeah. So there you guys have it. Yeah, both Nick and I, we're both going for Kevin Holland. I'm a little more confident in him, having him at my 4-weight, and Nick has him at his 1-weight. But it's safe to say, Kevin Holland, you can't go wrong going with him. And that comes to the next fight of the night, which is my 3-weight, and it's actually both are 3-weights. This is the fight between Adrian Yanez and Rob Font, and for this one, I have Adrian Yanez. Nick, who do you have for this fight?
I agree, man. I agree. Yanez is the favorite here, the slight favorite, and there's a lot of people out there that really think Font is going to bring it. and just kind of dice him apart. And I agree that Font's going to bring it, but I just simply don't agree that he's going to dice him apart. I specifically look at a fight like Davy Grant, and even though it was a split decision win, I think Davy Grant's a really good fighter to beat. A couple of years ago, he's still winning fights now as of recently. So I don't know, man. I think Adrian Yanez is one of those kids that's up and coming, and he's going to bring Rob Font to the limit and see if he can go the distance. Rob Font's coming off a couple of losses against top end fighters, so it's really hard to gauge, how he's going to compete against an up and coming guy when we've really only seen Rob Font, against the top 8, top 10 in the division until now. Yanez, he's starting to get the guys that are up and coming in the division, maybe trying to do a Justin Gaethje type thing and say, all right, now I took your little young boy, let me take a higher end fight, which may not be a bad tactic in his case. It'll really be to be seen, but I'm relatively confident, as my 3-weight states, that Adrian Yanez will be able to take this one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree any more with you, Nick. Like you mentioned, Rob Font has gone, but with nothing like phenomenal talent. He's competed with the best of the best, losing to Marlon Vera and Jose Aldo, no shame in that. And he has wins over former champ Cody Garbrandt and the current Bellator champ Sergio Pettis, as well as a win over Marlon Morales. He's 35 years old as well. Adrian Yanez definitely has age over him. Rob's Font's days could be numbered because this is a tough matchup for him. This is a hungry young dog coming at him, and this guy has power. Right now, out of Adrian Yanez's 16 wins, 10 of them come via KO, and he's gotten some first round finishes already within the UFC. And so he's a dangerous guy. This fight, I do think, will be on the feet. I would think it'd be safe to say that Adrian Yanez could get a possible TKO over Rob Font. Reason being is the dude just has a high finish rate. He's young. He's going to step forward. I don't think this fight's going to be on the ground. Adrian Yanez has yet to land a single takedown in the UFC, and he has 100% takedown defense, while Rob Font himself doesn't really throw many takedowns as well, maybe one per fight. So that being said, it's going to be a tough matchup for Rob Font, and I think you're going to see a young up-and-coming guy for sure that has power, and he's going to make a statement against a name like Rob Font. So yeah, I'm with you on this 100%. Having Adrian Yanez be our 3. Rob Font still a dangerous guy, and he can definitely prove us wrong.
For sure, man. For sure. I mean, I'm thinking Rob Font is definitely the guy that could be the downer on the day, and he's gonna be like, yeah, well, you thought you were gonna win on your picks, but nope. Because he is a dog, and there's no question about it. He will push the pace. He has a lot more experience. In fact, Yanez has no experience in a 5-round fight, and Font's last 3 fights have been 5-round fights to the distance. So that just says something about the conditioning difference we might experience. So I would argue for Yanez to really succeed in this fight, he needs to demand, whatever word you want to use, the respect of himself in terms of Rob Font, because otherwise Font's going to continue to press forward, land strike after strike. Font's the kind of guy who just landed 271 strikes in his last 25-minute match. I mean, that volume is insane, and he could have kept going if there were more rounds after that. So Yanez needs to just kind of keep an eye out for that. And by that, I'm saying be aggressive, and you got to demand respect.
I want 100% agree. Yeah. And that being said, again, understand if you go with Rob Font, but Nick and I have Adrian Yanez as our 3-weight. Adrian Yanez, I'm not sure if I did say it earlier, but I will repeat it just in case. He is the betting favorite at -186, while Rob Font is the betting underdog at +144. So there's that. And that just leaves us down to pretty much one more fight to talk about, Nick, which is our 2-weight.
Yeah, man. The last fight, which of course is the fight everybody came here most likely to come and see, who we've got in the 4th professional match between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. I mean, this time it's Alex putting his belt on the line, and Jose and I both have our 2 weights on it, but do we agree? Let's find out, because I have my 2-weight. I'm doing it, man. I've got it on Israel Adesanya. I'm not taking the bait here. It's crazy that Pereira's the underdog. I can see it. I get it. Okay. But at the same time, man, I think we can all agree that Izzy's the better MMA fighter overall. He just doesn't have the same power that Pereira does. And there's always the chance that the power turns in, because we can say the same thing about Izzy in this fight that we did Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards, where it was like, oh, Kamaru was winning the fight till he got knocked out. Same with Izzy. But we'll see. There's a lot that's going against Izzy here too. So that's obviously why he's my 2-weight, man. So what do you got? Are you agreeing or disagreeing here?
So yeah, again, yeah. Well, for my 2-weight, I don't disagree with a lot with what you said. Israel Adesanya is going to come strong, but I'm going with history, man. I'm going with Alex Pereira. I'm going with the champ. He is the underdog. But hear me out. He is so much bigger compared to Israel Adesanya. Like you look at how they matched up, he made Israel Adesanya look small. And not only that, you mentioned he does have that power to bring back with him, and he's even been talking about moving up and fighting for light heavyweight. So, and I believe Alex Pereira is a big guy, and that's who Israel Adesanya struggles with the most historically. He struggled with bigger guys like Jan Blachowicz, and specifically Alex Pereira himself 3 times now. Of course, he's looked good in the past, even in both the kickboxing fights and the last UFC fight. He did have his moments, but Alex Pereira has showed that he's willing to dig deep. He does have the cardio, and it'd be silly not to think that he's gotten better. Leon Edwards has shown that, he can leap forward and, make a lot of corrections and beat the guy he beat last time more convincingly. So I think Alex Pereira is going to do the same. He's going to do the same. I mean, when Israel Adesanya took him down and wrestled him, they both looked a little out of place. But Alex Pereira did not look comfortable at all, and that was a big weakness for him, kind of like Francis Ngannou and Stipe the first time. So I think Alex Pereira definitely is probably going to come back. It's going to come in and make those adjustments because he knows everyone wants to do that to him. Everyone's been open about it. Kamza and Vittori, they've all been talking about like, oh, I want to be matched up with him because I know what I'll do to him. And it's something that Israel Adesanya really isn't good at, which is the wrestling department. But that being said, matchup-wise, he does have 3 wins over Israel Adesanya. He is the underdog. He's a favorite underdog of mine too, besides Jorge Masvidal. That being said, their reach, everything, not too much different. He's a big guy. He's got the power, and he's beat him before. So for this one, yeah, I'm signing with the champ as my 2-weight, Nick.
Okay. Yeah, man, and I don't blame you at all, dude. It's honestly, I'm glad this is one of those rematches that's getting made right away, because these guys, obviously if Pereira wins this fight, there's no room for another rematch really, unless you want to do a Volkanovski Max Holloway situation where Izzy just continues to smack everyone else, and it's just like, okay, there's literally no one else to fight in this division. But other than that, man, this has got to be it for Izzy. I think there's a little bit of it's interesting because I've been listening around a little bit, and a lot of people say that Izzy's got the mental advantage, or excuse me, they're saying that Pereira has the mental advantage. And I'm thinking in my head that I believe Izzy actually has the mental advantage here. And I get it. Like, their reasoning is because Pereira has the 3-0 record over Izzy, so it's got to be in Izzy's head. But I don't necessarily think that's how Izzy's thinking. Like, Izzy's not just sitting in the corner of his room like, oh my God, I'm 0-3 versus Alex Pereira. Like, he does not care. I think Izzy is a competitor. He's going to continue to do his best. And the one deciding factor for me on this fight is, will he bring someone new into the camp that can help train like an actual wrestling kind of game plan? It doesn't need to be 25 minutes of wrestling. That is exhausting. It's not going to happen. But the fact of the matter, in my opinion, is he was winning the fight by decision until he got knocked out in the 5th round. So if he can maybe play by points the first couple of rounds and wrestle for the last couple of rounds, do something like that. He had 6.5 minutes of control time against Alex Pereira in that last fight. 6.5. There's potential there. Train some submissions, train this and that. You don't have to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, just try some different techniques. I mean, it worked for Alexa Grasso on someone we consider to be undefeatable in the women's division. So I don't know, man. I see a lot of different ways this fight can end, and to me, the only good way it ends for Alex Pereira is one way, which is KO, and it's happened multiple times already. So there's no reason to not think it won't happen again, and that's why I don't blame you. But to me, Izzy's got I say Izzy has a better chance of winning by points and or submission. But if he does not bring a new person into camp and just thinks he can kind of keep the same things status quo, that's when Alex Pereira is going to come into the advantage. Alex Pereira is going to kick Izzy's legs out and end up knocking him out or something, Yeah, honestly, that'll be it. He'll end up getting knocked out. So that's what I'm honestly thinking here.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, Pereira, he's a finisher out of his 7 wins, 6 via KO. Crazy for even how small that is. And Israel Adesanya, he has been going to decision against some dudes I feel like he probably could have put out. And how crazy is this? So if he do go for Israel Adesanya, he has a plus 440 on KO/TKO, which I think is kind of like, I mean, I don't know, like if Izzy were to beat him, for being the favorite, does seem like a lot of people are banking on decision then, but I don't know. I do think maybe I'm going for Pereira, but I would think like I'd want to go with Israel when I see that.
Yeah, that's a great dude. I'm really glad you called that out because, I was having the thought that like you remember in the first UFC fight specifically when Izzy, it was at the end of round 1 or round 2 when Izzy wobbled Pereira and Pereira was like, whoa, he got the chicken legs a little bit, but the bell dinged and it was the end of it and they got back into it the next round and Alex Pereira composed himself together. And I don't know, man. Alex is older here. Alex is 2 years, I think, and a couple of months older than Izzy. It's not a crazy difference here, but how many more hits can Alex Pereira's chin take when he can just kind of be wobbled and then come back just fine? Like, I don't know, man. All this professional kick, everybody is like, oh, yeah, well, he only has 8 professional, MMA fights, but look at his whole, hundreds of kickboxing fights. Well, I'm sure his brain and his head didn't do too well from those either. So, I don't know, man. It's an interesting thought just as a side note, which is why I'm glad you brought up that line because it's a really good value line, even because it just doesn't seem like people don't equate Izzy to power, but I think I'm pretty sure he has 15 KOs on his professional MMA record. That's a lot of KOs, man. Just because people don't think of him as being a KO monster, he still knocks people out, even like sneakily. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, he put that guy into the shadow realm. But hey, he won by KO.
He put Robert Whitaker in the shadow realm, and he put out Paulo Costa as well. Big dudes and talented dudes as well. So
honestly,
yeah, but yeah. That being said, yeah, for that one, we both have this fight as our 2-way. We have to agree to disagree on this one. You with Izzy, and I with the champ Alex Pereira.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think all around though, those are some great picks though from both sides, and like you mentioned earlier, then our most confident pick by far right now is Raul Rosas, the young stud that's going to be coming up early on the main card, and as always, follow us on Twitter at Moneyline MMA to get our final picks, our final lock and parlay. But you can pretty much slate it in for Rosas Jr. and Yanez likely is at least a good 2-leg parlay because those two guys combined for a good amount of points here between us at Moneyline MMA. Otherwise, we will be back again for the next UFC card. Until then, enjoy UFC 287 and let us know down below who you'll be betting on. Thanks for listening.